Hey everyone, welcome back to the Weekly Awakening Podcast. This is your host, Cosmic Colleen, back with episode 285. Tomorrow, Tuesday the 10th, Venus ingresses into Pisces at 5:18 a.m. I talked a lot about that on last week's episode that I dropped, so if you did not listen to that, go back and listen to that, especially if you are a mutable placement. Wednesday the 11th, Mercury enters its shadow period at 5:12 p.m. Remember East Coast time, so that is sort of the beginning stages of Mercury retrograde. Though I feel like we kind of got that since Mercury ingressed into Pisces. It gives it a little bit of a Mercury retrograde feel, we can say. Then on Thursday the 12th, Mercury conjuncts the North Node. Friday the 13th, Saturn ingresses into Aries, where it'll be for almost 3 years. This transit alone feels very Friday the 13th. You know, if you guys understand Saturn and Aries, it is definitely Michael Myers. Wait, who's the one? Friday the 13th is Jason, right? Yeah, that's definitely Saturn and Aries. Next Monday, the 16th, the Sun in Aquarius will square Uranus and Taurus for one last time. Because, and this is going to be, I hope this breaks a lot of tension between my kids, my Aquarius and my Taurus placement. Tuesday, the 17th, we have the solar eclipse in Aquarius, beginning the new eclipse series in Aquarius and Leo. Remember though, Virgo, Pisces, that eclipse is not done. We are ending that. We're having a little bit of a crossover. I'll explain that in this week's episode. At 8:44 a.m., Venus will be conjunct the North Node. I guess, when was that day? That is next Wednesday, I think. I didn't even write down the day. What day was that? Is that happening? Yes, it's actually happening on the 17th. Oh yeah, the day of the eclipse. It's happening on the same day as the eclipse. And then on Friday, the 20th, we have a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. I decided to do a different episode for that, so that will be coming out after this episode. Because there is too much to talk about. Lots happening over these next few weeks. I talked a lot about Venus and Pisces and Mercury and Pisces on last week's episode. So again, you may have already heard me. Go back and check that out if you did not, because I'm not going to talk about it in that much detail, as I guess I am talking a lot on more detail on this, but definitely go back to last week's episode. So Venus, like I said last week, works at her best in the sign of Pisces, which is adding to support with positive energy for this retrograde, this upcoming Mercury retrograde. Pay attention to what happens this upcoming week, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because the retrograde is going to be around for my mutable placements, what is happening this week. And you may not see the full picture, but there's going to be tiny details that come out because Mercury will station at this week's degree at the end of this retrograde. So any Mercury issues around communication, misconceptions, mishaps, mistakes will resolve on March 20th when Mercury stations direct. So we are not yet in Mercury retrograde. However, this week the shadow period begins, and it happens to begin at the degree that Mercury retrograde will station direct. So it's cycling back, which is why I'm saying something that plays out this week will play out over Mercury retrograde. Some people believe the shadow period is a little more intense, the pre and post. Sometimes I see it more in the pre. I will definitely see the pre-Mercury retrograde hit, but not always the post. It depends on, I guess, in your individual birth chart. So pay attention, though, if it isn't any outside type of things, pay attention to the self-awareness that comes because that's the ultimate lesson with Mercury retrograde, the self-awareness. That is what Mercury is bringing us. If we can say each planet is bringing us a spiritual transformation, a life lesson, Mercury's is around self-awareness. So it's lots of life lessons. It's around just getting to know yourself a little bit more, getting to become more flexible, more mutable. That's one of Mercury's. That's the Gemini and Virgo. That's their gift. That's their blessing. It is being able to be extremely flexible, showing up in all kinds of moments in life with able to connect to anyone, able to try something new. Now, one of the things that is a harder aspect to that is that it can't always stick with the same thing. So allow, though, let's take the good with it, to teach you to become flexible, mutable, and just understand your mind a little bit more. I do want to talk about Venus and Mercury both being conjunct with the North Node. When a planet conjuncts the North Node, it is bringing in new energy, like a portal, like a deep hole, like a black hole, but things do exit out the other side, which is the South Node. They don't just get stuck in there for infinity, they actually exit out the South Node. So these, I like to look at it like a little slide, because no matter where the North Node, the South Node is at the same degree, right? It is in Eastern astrology, it is the K2 and Rahu. So Rahu is the head of the dragon, K2 is the tail of the dragon. So everything that comes in must go out. So these are some things that you can expect with this conjunction. Getting in touch with your subconscious desires, pleasures, feeling joy within creativity again, finally feeling the healing is peeking through, ready to make positive changes mentally that lead to your self-confidence blossoming, deep soul connections with friends, new soul connections that have a shared common interest of art, creativity, spirituality, nature, people that come into your life during this time. These next few weeks will feel like that you've known them forever. Harmonious relationships. This can lead to a new lover coming in and shaking things up, as well as a former lover coming back. Remember what I said on last week's episode, though, that someone formally coming back from the past can actually be a good thing with this Mercury retrograde. A lot of Mercury retrogrades, it is not recommended, or maybe you say they're coming back around just so you can get an idea of how far you've grown or one last lesson. However, having such a supportive Venus, the ruler of our love, in Pisces, I'm like, I don't know. This would actually be a good transit to give a former past lover a second chance. But I said on last week's episode, remember, resistance is important. If you feel the resistance and it feels like it's not aligning, it is not for a reason. It's not the right timing, not the right person, so keep that in mind. Pisces placements, y'all should be feeling the best you have felt over these last 3 years. You're coming to the other side of a lot of pain and growing from these last 3 years, as well as my mutable signs in general, and now feeling more like yourself, more than you ever have. Enjoy this new surge of energy. You guys are coming alive again. There's a lot of family healing for all of my mutable placements. It is going to take place this week in particular, since it is Saturn's last week in Pisces for the next 30 years. So that's what I'm saying for my mutable signs, like all of these with the Venus and Mercury conjuncting the nodes, Saturn exiting Pisces. We are really closing a chapter over the last 3 years, my mutable placements. And so congratulations, because you are moving forward and in a faster rate, you could say now. So you, though, are going to be able to move forward with more healing, more compassion, more understanding in your heart. You realize that the past is the past, and now you're ready to move forward, let go. There's a lot of clearing and closing cycles playing out for you guys, especially over these next 5 weeks. So ride the wave. Smooth horizons are coming for now, and you're not going to feel like you're drowning so much. And if you still do, maybe look at your mindset, because sometimes you guys can be a little bit of martyrs, my Pisces, out of all the mutable placements, and say, maybe it's time for me to change my mindset. So we are now beginning a new eclipse series with the Aquarius Leo dynamic, the going back and forth. Those two signs are oppositions of each other. Leo ruling the sun, and Aquarius, the Saturn in traditional astrology, and Uranus in more modern astrology. So we're going to talk about Uranus, because it is not going to be here with these eclipses except for the very first one. So kind of the similar energy that kicked off with a full moon in Leo last week. We can expect some healing there, and we can get a better idea about how these eclipses in Aquarius and Leo are going to play out. First, again, I want to elaborate. I am so happy that Uranus is not going to be with these eclipses. Uranus enters Gemini on April 25th, so we can all breathe a sigh of relief, because these eclipses in that sign would be much more erratic and sudden, life-changing if Uranus was still there. So the last time these eclipses and these fixed signs were happening was when Taurus and Scorpio eclipses 2021 to 2023. Those were present with Uranus and Taurus. So Uranus was square to those with Leo and Aquarius placements. Let's just be happy Uranus is out of this fixed energy. This new eclipse series is beginning with a solar eclipse in Aquarius, but again, Uranus is still there. There is a slight square to Uranus and Taurus, but it's at the very end. It's a light eclipse. And so the rest of this eclipse series, Uranus will not be there. I'm telling you, it takes out quite a dramatic picture out of things. So the things that play out aren't going to be so sudden or out of nowhere as they were when we had the Taurus and Scorpio eclipses. Now, in Aquarius, this new I want to call it a soft eclipse, we can say. It is supported with Venus in Pisces. Some Aquarius placements, since you're on the, Pisces is on the other side, a lot of you guys probably have some Pisces placements, so that is definitely going to add to the support, especially my Aquarius placements with a Venus in Pisces. This is going to be really, really good, a nice kickoff with this eclipse. So right away, though, my fixed placements, y'all should be feeling much less friction. Yes, this is happening at the end of the Sun in Aquarius, which will be squaring Uranus and Taurus for one last time in these two signs. But this is a real feeling of a relief, finally, after lots of friction has been building. There can be some residual friction lying around in your body, but for the most part, it's feelings of good because you're releasing what is no longer serving you. Fixed placements, we are just opening up the door of this eclipse series. So the nodes haven't even shifted yet out of Pisces and Virgo, and this is where I want to talk about. So some of you might ask, an eclipse, how can this happen when the nodes haven't ingressed into new signs? So an eclipse can occur. Right now it's occurring in Aquarius, even though the nodes are in Pisces and Virgo, to an overlap where the sun and the moon align to the new and approaching nodal axis rather than the current nodal axis. So it is approaching, which is giving it this solar eclipse. I'm quoting this now from another astrologer I was listening to, and they call this an out of sign eclipses act as a bridge or a preview to the next set of unexpected shifts. So that's why I'm saying this is a soft eclipse. This is sort of just peeking into what we can expect for these next 2 years when we have these eclipses. But my Virgo, my Pisces, my Gemini, my Sagittarius, we are at the end of eclipse, shifting over these about 8 more months playing out, but now we're closing cycles, we're starting those new beginnings, we're past the kind of scary change part for the most part. So let me say this first eclipse in the sign of Aquarius isn't going to be too major. It's again going to be nicely positively aspected. Now, it doesn't mean that what happens now isn't going to be big. It will be, but you aren't seeing the big picture yet. You are just getting a little preview right now, but that preview is getting getting your attitude right, getting your life settled for the new group of changes that are coming up into your life. That is important to know. So right now you're feeling that shift. You understand it's happening, but you are just starting to see what is going to play out. And when I look back at eclipses, especially when they happen in prominent houses or with my astrology that's very prominent, I go back to the very first eclipse and you see a little domino effect. You see these little shifts in that week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it didn't quite make sense or seem like a big deal. And then you get to the end of the eclipse season, you're like, whoa, funny, I thought it was just a random encounter, me with this person, or I didn't think that me purchasing this would end up being such a big thing in my life. It's something tiny, and so that's how this is going to show up. But I want to use this eclipse, especially for my fixed signs, to get that mind and soul right, and you're going to have to learn to get some of your reactions under control. Fixed signs have a lot of reactions because they want to control. They want what they want, and they and they don't want the change. So Saturn, the traditional ruler of Aquarius, will be in Aries, though, with this eclipse. It will be the first week of Saturn in Aries with this eclipse. So much more fire than Saturn was used to in the sign of Pisces. This is a time to say what you mean. Say the things to the person, place, or thing that will help you towards that goal of detachment. Aquarius is a very detached sign, and sometimes it's a blessing because they can just keep moving forward. Not too many things hold them down, and they let go, and they don't hold on to the aspect of things or the material realm, especially the way Leos do. But it also, that's where I think a lot of them can keep their happiness from detaching. But sometimes, you guys know, Aquariuses need to attach a little bit more and come back together. So Again, saying the right things to the person, place, or thing that helps you towards the goal of detachment. Watch your tongue. Say what you mean, but remember, you are going to feel a little extra spicy. It might be quick because Saturn is in Aries, and it's a whole different Saturn now, a whole different ball game. Fixed placements, you may be feeling a strong urge to make a sudden change. Do not yet, okay? Scorpio, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, do not make the change yet, even though you might feel really called to suddenly during this eclipse. Understand that the urge you are feeling is due to the underlying changes that you feel are coming up soon. Before we make great change, we feel it coming. This is what happens during eclipse season. You are feeling that change is on the horizon, but you aren't sure exactly how it will play out. Don't make any fast decisions right now, okay? Trust that things are in alignment and let that alignment work. Instead of aligning, okay, trust that they're alignment for you, but Instead, try aligning yourself with getting your mind, body, and soul right so you are in the right mental and emotional place to handle the change that is on the horizon. Mars is going to be having a pull over this eclipse with Saturn and Aries, so that's why I'm saying, sudden or harsh choices, don't do it yet, even though you may be feeling the urge to. The change you want to make will happen, but let the process happen. Don't rush that. Let the process happen. For the rest of us, this eclipse energy is going to feel very energetic, fast-paced, fast detachment. The letting go of what you no longer care about is going to be easy with this energy. I should say easier, but not easy. But there is a more flexibility for fixed placements to want to get over things for this. So allow that to happen. Let this eclipse lead you to a liberated freedom. One last square to Uranus. Say it with me. Let me be free. You may realize you were a slave to your own emotions. And liberated freedom, remind yourself that you don't care anymore. That's where that is. That liberated freedom comes from not caring about the stupid little things, the stupid shit. Ooh, did I accidentally say something and that person might be upset, or maybe they don't like me. We are so filled in our head, and that is eating at our spirit. Okay, we need to break free. This world has made us humans so much more complicated than we need to be. So learn to simplify it by letting go. Yes, there are times that things are serious. I just had this conversation with my Taurus placement in Capricorn moon, because he can get very serious about things. I'm like, yes, there is a time and a place when things are serious, and there will be times in your life where you need to be serious, but most things actually are not that serious, okay? Let the big things be serious. These tiny things aren't serious, and they're slowly chipping away at your happiness. Bring in more happiness through detachment. That is the greatest lesson. So start out my fixed placements, this new shifts, these new changes that you are entering with that mindset. You may find that this is a time where a lot of the signs, all of them, especially my fixed signs, want to do something humanitarian. Aquarius placements are the most humanitarian. They are the most helpful. They love to support the underdog. They like to make things fair. So my Aquarius placements, this energy naturally comes to you, but not necessarily the other fixed placements. No offense, guys, but be honest, okay? Aquarius, give it to them. They are the most humanitarian. A good way to get out of yourself is to get into the issues or the mind of someone else. Do for someone else, help for someone else. You can volunteer at a homeless shelter, or you can help someone in your local community, giving them a ride somewhere, donating clothes or something to them, donating money. You can also just call a friend that may be struggling and just listen to them talk. We can get so lost in our own bullshit that getting into someone else's, will help us, because it gives us a brand new perspective. It's like unplugging the computer and plugging it back in. I mean, I want to give that credit to NA. So many things of these learning shifts and these changes in our spirit and our mind, that these exercises I got from a 12-step fellowship, and that was one of them. I would call my sponsor or call a friend, usually an older friend, like someone in the rooms who was, 25 years older than me and had the wisdom. And I would just be bitching about something in my life or something that's happening. And they would be like, all right, well, I want you to hang up and call someone else and listen to what their bullshit is. And I was like, what? Because the truth is, my bullshit was just stupid, and me just running off about it, that half the time was ego or something that didn't need to be that big. Meanwhile, it's like a good perspective that someone else can have much bigger problems than you can, and it teaches you how to be grateful for what you have. But again, it gets you out of your mind. We can get so consumed in our own minds, our own emotions, we get lost in it. And again, we need to like hop into someone else's to be able to free ourselves of that and to get that new perspective. So same thing in the collective right now. There's a lot of collective energy, all the outer planets moving. We can just sit online and we can share our complaints and we can put out all the stories we want and all the other things we want. However, the real change is going to come from how you personally show up within your community and those around you. We have to regrow this world with love and joy and happiness, which I know people say I'm naive, but I'm hoping one day that will lead to it. We're all part of raising the consciousness here, but it's not going to happen by just reading shit online and getting consumed in your mind with it or just making your comments. It's going to happen by actually showing up personally around you. It's going to happen by what you're teaching your kids and not by what you're saying, but what they're hearing you say to others, how they're seeing you personally show up. If they see you show up with kindness and giving, they're going to do it too. And not to toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty giving person, you know? I don't have a ton to give, but I tend to give away a lot of what I have. And I came from a mother and a father who were also very naturally giving people. And my kids, I already see it in them when I'm not around them. They're like constantly giving. You know, there were times where I hear my sons are like kids in school who can't like afford extra snacks. They buy it and give it to them, like things along those lines. And that's just came from them seeing my own actions. And so that is one of the ways that we're going to change the world, as well as being kind, smiling. Can we fucking smile again, people? Like, especially here in the Northeast where nobody smiles and no one takes time or wants to smile. But I think COVID accelerated that in the world because of the mask. Smile at one another again, okay? Be the change, but the change is going to start in your community. I love you all. That's all I have for this episode. I'm going down next week to New Orleans to see my mother. And then I'm going to also mostly be there with my mother, who's, you know, as you know, her failing health. That is unfortunately still what is happening. And I am taking one day going into Mardi Gras. So wish me luck there. I'm not showing these bad boys for any beads though. They got to be throwing me those Benjamins. But I am going in there. So I wanted to do these episodes, and I'm going to do a separate episode this week and release about Saturn and Aries, as well as Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries, because next week is some big stuff. So I realized I had to split these episodes. Originally, I thought I could add all of this in one, but then it would be a 40-minute episode, and no one listens to 40-minute episodes anymore. So stay tuned. We'll have more on this episode. I love you all. Ride the wave, but we have a lot of astrology, a lot of cycles ending, and a lot of new cycles beginning, but allow this all to happen with an open heart and an open mind. I love you all. Thank you guys. The best way to support this podcast is to rate, review it, send it to a friend. Thank you for all those who continue to do it. And again, I love you all. Goodbye.